It was a cold Tuesday morning when I realized my house was quietly turning against me. My son Derek had dropped off a heavy cardboard box of furnace filters and left it right at the bottom of the front porch stairs. It was exactly 4 wooden steps to the front door. 4 steps I had walked up thousands of times. I picked up that box, put my right foot on the first tread, and my thigh just felt entirely empty. It was like somebody had gone down to the basement and flipped the main circuit breaker for my legs. I had to drop the box on the concrete, grab the cold iron railing with both hands, and physically haul my own dead weight up to my own front door. That split second of hesitation, that heavy dead feeling in the muscle before you even lift your foot, that is the moment the denial finally stops working. If you know that exact feeling of staring at a small set of stairs and wondering how you are going to get up them, I need you to know you are not out of options. I told my wife Linda it was just my knees wearing out. I spent 32 years working logistics and warehouse management right here in Knoxville. I spent my life walking on raw concrete, climbing metal ladders, and moving heavy freight. I figured the cartilage was completely gone, and this weak feeling was just the final bill coming due. But Linda does not let things slide. She saw me pulling myself up the porch stairs with my arms. A few days later, my daughter Megan came over for Sunday dinner. Megan is an occupational therapist, and she knows I will not listen to a word of medical advice unless I can read the numbers on paper myself. She left a printed study on my workbench in the garage. That paper tracked hundreds of people our age who thought their walking days were over. The numbers I read changed my entire perspective. More than 70% of the folks struggling with stairs did not have bone-on-bone arthritis. They were not dealing with ruined joints or bad lungs. They were dealing with sarcopenia. That is the clinical word for muscle that simply packs up and leaves because you stopped giving it a reason to stay. Megan explained that this specific muscle loss targets the front of your thighs, your glutes, and the stabilizers deep in your hips. Those are the exact physical engines you need to lift your body weight up a step. My knees were not the main problem. The muscles around them had just rusted away and become too weak to fight gravity. Once I understood that the muscle was just dormant, I knew I could fix it. I started looking for what actually works for people over 70. I found a routine based on the work of an older doctor over in Japan who spent his entire career keeping seniors out of nursing homes and on their own 2 feet. I am going to walk you through the 3 exact movements I learned from his approach. There are only 3. They take about 2 minutes total. The third movement goes completely against every instinct you have when your knees feel fragile, but it is the one that changed everything. And after we cover those 3, I am going to share a simple mechanical change to how you stand in front of a staircase that you can use today to make climbing easier. I am 73 years old. When I retired from the warehouse, I honestly believed a lifetime of physical labor meant my body would just stay strong automatically. I thought I had built up a savings account of muscle. But the body does not let you live off the interest. When I stopped moving heavy things, my legs got thinner. I started looking for parking spots closer to the grocery store. I watched an old friend of mine named Martin sell his beautiful 2-story home last year because he was terrified of falling down his own carpeted stairs. Men my age refuse to talk about this. We just stopped going upstairs. We stop visiting our kids if they live on the 2nd floor. We let our world get smaller and smaller, and we pretend we prefer it that way. Giving up your stairs is how you end up giving up your independence. The first thing I had to unlearn was thinking my morning walk around the neighborhood was enough. Walking is a fine thing to do, but walking on a flat paved street does not ask your thighs to hoist your entire body weight straight up against gravity. To fix that, I learned a movement that only requires a heavy wooden dining room chair. You sit right on the edge of that wood. You put your feet shoulder width apart and tuck them just a bit behind your knees. You cross your arms tight over your chest so you cannot cheat by pushing off the table. Then you stand straight up, using nothing but your legs. But standing up is not the real exercise. The real work is sitting back down. You have to lower yourself back to that wooden seat so incredibly slowly that it takes you 4 full seconds. You fight gravity every single inch. Do not just let your weight drop at the end. That slow lowering motion forces those dead muscle fibers to wake up and rebuild. I started doing 10 of these slow chair stands every morning while the coffee was brewing. I showed this exact movement to a guy in my neighborhood named Thomas. Thomas is 76, and he used to sit on his porch swing and rock his upper body back and forth 3 times just to build up enough momentum to throw himself onto his feet. I told him to cross his arms and try the slow sit. He complained about his thighs burning for the first 2 weeks. But a month later, I walked by his house and saw him stand straight up from that swing in one quiet, smooth motion. He did not rock. He did not grab the chains. The muscle was still there, it just needed a job to do. But forward strength is only half the battle. When you climb a stair, there's a split second where your entire body weight rests completely on one single leg. If you feel wobbly on the stairs, or if your knee caves inward, it is not your joint failing. It is a muscle on the side of your hip called the gluteus medius. Megan told me that when that side muscle gets weak, your pelvis tilts every time you take a step, your balance disappears, and your brain panics and makes you grab the nearest wall. To fix that side weakness, you do not use a full stair. A standard stair is 8 inches high, and that is way too much to ask of a weak hip. I found a thick piece of scrap wood in my garage that was only about 4 inches tall. You stand sideways next to the wood. You put one foot flat on it. You push yourself straight up until that leg is completely straight, leaving the other leg hanging in the air. Then you lower yourself back down sideways, slow and controlled. The first time I tried this, my left leg did 10 repetitions easily, but my right leg started shaking so violently by the 3rd repetition that I had to grab my workbench. I had been walking around with a massive hidden weakness for years. I was one bad step away from a broken hip. I started doing 10 sideways step-ups on each side every day, and the shaking completely stopped by the 2nd week. Now we get to the 3rd movement, and I need you to listen closely because this is the one that completely reversed how I felt inside my own house. Everyone thinks pulling yourself up the stairs is the hardest part. But going down the stairs is where the real damage happens. Going down is where the fear lives. When you step down, your leg muscles have to stretch and contract at the exact same time to act as physical brakes for your body. If those brakes are gone, your knee joints take the full brutal impact of your weight. You rebuild those brakes by standing on the very bottom stair of your house, facing forward like you are going to walk down. You keep a hand near the rail for balance. You leave one foot planted firmly on the stair, and you slowly lower your other foot toward the floor, but you do not step down. You just lower it until your heel lightly taps the floor, and then you immediately pull it back up using only the planted leg. You are teaching that thigh how to hold your weight against gravity again. My legs burned in a deep working ache the first few days I did this. It felt like my 20s on the loading dock. It meant the engines were turning back on. Those 3 movements will rebuild your machinery. But I promised you a mechanical adjustment you can use right now to make stairs easier. For years, as my legs got weaker, I started standing perfectly straight and stiff when I approached a staircase. I would pull my dead weight upward using the handrail. Megan watched me do this and explained that when you stand straight up, your center of gravity is trapped behind your feet. You are literally fighting gravity to drag yourself backward and upward at the same time. She told me to step up to the bottom stair, plant my foot, and simply lean my chest forward. Just a small hinge from the hips. When you lean your chest forward, you shift your entire body weight directly over your front foot. Gravity stops fighting you and starts helping you fall forward onto the next step. Your legs no longer have to deadlift your whole body. They just have to catch your forward momentum. I tried it the next morning. I leaned into the staircase instead of pulling away from it. The physical relief was immediate. It felt like I had dropped a heavy sack of concrete off my shoulders. Last month, my youngest grandson left his heavy wooden train set in the upstairs hallway. I did not stop at the bottom of the stairs to brace myself. I did not stare at the top tread. I just walked up, picked up the box, and walked back down. I did not grip the rail until my knuckles turned white. Linda was standing by the kitchen table watching me. She just gave me a quiet nod. She knew the ghost of that weakness had finally left our home. You do not have to accept a shrinking world. The human body does not forget how to build muscle just because you turn 70. It is just waiting for you to give it a reason to turn the lights back on. Start with the dining room chair. Find a piece of wood for the side steps. Practice tapping your heel from the bottom stair. And lean your chest forward when you climb. It takes maybe 2 minutes a day and the willingness to look your own pride in the eye. I am going to keep sitting on this porch putting these things together because nobody warned me what was coming, and somebody needs to be talking about it plainly. Go try that chair movement today. I will be right here when you are ready for the next step.